All right, welcome in. It's a brand new edition of the RSL show. Alex Napolis, Josh Clark joining me today. Josh, how you doing, man?
Alex, I am feeling so good. Yesterday was just the best day of my life.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be here.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you,
Yeah.
man.
I'm feeling salty, Alex. I'm feeling salty.
We've had such an interesting ending to the season. Not the best of results, and so we're gonna try to mix it up and do something a little bit different today, in the hopes that it's gonna give us a little bit more good luck in Minnesota. Hopefully, maybe, possibly. But we have a special guest joining us today, and that is the Andy Munoz joining us here on the RSL show.
Bro.
Andy Munoz, how you doing, man?
MIA. Yeah, dude, I'm great. Took a little break. I told Alex to host, and that was a perfect excuse for me to pull a Jake Simons and dip out for a good time. But no, man, I've been following the season, been following everything, watching every single game, paying attention to Twitter, watching the news. And I don't know if by me taking a break, bro, like the vibes were thrown off. Because if you guys remember earlier in the season, I was just super stoked, hyped up, and the team was doing well. And here we are now in this very weird playoff format that I don't like. I dislike it a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people online feel the same way. But yeah, we're coming off a loss, off of a PK, off of a stand at home that we wish could have gone a lot differently, but these guys really hunkered in, 5-4-1 formation. And I think the only cool opportunity that we saw came out of what happened?
Josh's reaction to what you just said was amazing.
The other team. I'm talking about the other team.
I know, but you mentioned tactics and shit.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know. I usually don't talk tactics. Yeah, man, no, but
he came prepared.
Yeah, bro, came a little prepared, man. That's what
I'm just
when you take some time off. You just bleep the curse words or whatever. But yeah, no, dude, I'm just
just not used to it, Andy. It's been a while.
Yeah, no,
right?
Dude, I'm
me and Alex show. And hearing you come back mentioning a tactic was incredible. I like it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, just trying to brush up, man. But no, dude, it was just difficult, dude. It was hard to find a break, and there were some great opportunities. Not even that much, but let's talk about some things that went right. I don't even think there is anything that went right. But yeah, man, I'm just stoked to be back, and we actually have a very cool episode that is going to be incoming on Saturday. So after this next match, Alex, I don't know if you've been invited yet. This is your invitation. We're going to get all of the entire RSL show back and friends, and we're going to watch the game together, and then we're going to do an episode reaction right after that. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully it's a 1-1 result. But anyways, I'm back, ready to talk about what I'm seeing, and I know you guys missed my voice. Everyone listening, I know you missed my voice.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you back, man.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. At least somebody.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Josh is not.
I'm not.
But no, I'm going to be honest. We did not put enough love and positivity, or whatever you called it, at the beginning of the season. After that St. Louis episode, when you had us put our hands up.
Yeah.
We didn't do enough of that, and I think that's ultimately what's caused us to fall on this skid. So it's good to have you back, so we can have a little bit more of that.
You guys did not praise the RSL Holy Ghost.
We did not.
And I think that's mistake number one. I thought Josh wouldn't derail the season, but he clearly did.
Yeah, clearly, this is all my fault. Clearly.
It's all your fault, dude.
You know what? I'll take that burden.
Yeah. You will die for the RSL sins for sure. All right, let's go.
So let's jump into it. And Andy, you bring up a really good point, and I want to start there before we jump into RSL talk. Players, as well as national media, as well as plenty of fans coming out and complaining about this best of three series format that we have going on here in MLS playoffs. Tom Bogert, obviously one of the bigger national writers, came out, says he absolutely hates the format. Stefan Fry saying that it doesn't make sense that a team can lose 5-0 or win 5-0 in the first game, then lose the next two and still not be able to advance. Aaron Long says the best of three series is really dumb. So there's players speaking out against it now. How do you guys feel about this playoff series format where you have to play the best of three in the first round?
I absolutely hate it. It just feels like a money grab, right? Why is one playoff series over a week and a half long? 2 weeks in some cases, right? Like it's ridiculous. Home and away, winner takes all, right? It just feels like, just another way to get messy on Apple TV. Just another game.
Real Salt Lake was, and it's not their fault, but did you guys see the, hey, tickets are on sale for match 3? Like it was a positive thing, right? But personally, I'm not a fan, man. That was actually quite a shocker. Like I've been following the season, but I haven't been so hunkered into the league changes, or in this case, league experimentation. And the best 2 out of 3 series, absolutely stupid. Not a fan of it. But I guess in this case, it may have worked in our favor because I feel like we're going to be able to go back and maybe watch some tape and figure out the next match coming up.
Overall, I think it was done and the change was made because Major League Soccer obviously wants more on Apple TV. Apple TV wants more games, and plus more teams want home games. So in that sense, it works out. But I think as a fan and as a player, I see more downside to it than positives for sure.
Yeah, it's just a lot of games, especially in a playoff. Like, it's just a lot to ask of the guys, right? Can you imagine if they made MLS Cup a 3-game final, right? Like, it kind of feels like what we're headed to. It's ridiculous. That they never would, but
No. And then you look at the comments made by Stefan Fry, and he brings up a really valid point. We'll get into the results too here in a minute, but LA Galaxy, Colorado Rapids. LA Galaxy won 5-0. By the 54th minute, they were up 3-0, and Colorado had just given up. They knew that there was 2 more games that they could win for them to advance. You can physically see Colorado just give up in that game once they're down 3-0. So in that case, I get what Stephen Fry is saying, right? If Colorado wins this first one 5-0, then Colorado comes back and wins the next 2. That 5-0 that LA Galaxy did means nothing. Whereas you bring in the aggregates, you bring in the 2-game series, that matters. That counts.
So you're getting more energy. You're getting a better game.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it in different leagues, right? Aggregate. You get the advantage scoring away, come home. I mean, it happened to us with the CONCACAF final. I hate to bring that up, Josh. I know the eye roll. But yeah, I do feel like it makes for more interesting games. And that's actually, it's news to me. I know it's a best 2 out of 3 series, but I did not realize up until this very moment that the result actually doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's an accumulation of goals, which if it was maybe a 2 out of 3 series accumulative goals, then that would maybe make it a little bit different, maybe make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, there's no reason that you go up 5 on a team and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you gave them a proper ass whipping in game 1, right? Because you could just lose it in 2 and 3. So to me, I'm not a fan of it. It's weird how MLS just keeps experimenting. For a league that's been around for this long, you think that they would just be able to stick around. I mean, now we're hearing about potential season schedule changes, which I also think is stupid. So it's tough, and I don't know where we would be. Would we be enjoying this if Real Salt Lake was to win at home yesterday, or do we still think that this 2-3 format is crap?
I mean, clearly we're happy they won, right? But we'd still be having the conversation. Well, we have to win one more, but we're still not safe, right? And I know that's the same in like a best out of 2, but it just seems like such a long, drawn out process.
And that's weird because we typically want more soccer. And that's probably the argument, but I think they're going to learn really quick. I'd actually be surprised to see if this carries on to next season. I don't see it happening that way or going down that way. Hopefully it's not a permanent change.
Yeah, and it's one thing to have like a 7-game series in NBA, MLB, NHL, right? But those games are like a day apart. Sometimes they're back to back. So it's better for the players in ways. You couldn't do that with soccer, clearly, but At least it's not this week and a half, 2 week long series that just feels so drawn out and you're almost bored by the end of it.
Yeah, in the case that Rouse Lake does force a game 3 back at America First Field, it would be, so obviously we have the Vancouver game on the 2nd, or the Minnesota game on the 2nd, and then they would come back to America First and not play that until the 8th. So you have a whole week in between where you play your second game, you have to wait to play your third game. So it's very drawn out and very long if it does go to that third game.
Yeah, I hate that we have conversations of forcing, or just even the terminology of like having to force a game 3. It's just a crappy place to be in, especially with like the hot start that we had of the season. You got to think what that does mentally to everybody, especially the fans, right? Like we're kind of seeing a collapse on Twitter of the fans already kind of go. I saw some tweets Pablo out, which I don't agree
Let's not
with.
get ridiculous.
Yeah, let's tone it back a little bit. But I think mentally, I mean, we're just coming off of a home game, and yeah, we do better on the road, but oh my god, it's I hate being back in this seat. It's where were we? I obviously they had a lockdown with defense, and we didn't get a lot of opportunities, but this should have just been a match to put away, and we shouldn't even be sitting in this position. And I did have a feeling, I know we're going to probably cover PKs later, but when I saw Justin Glad step up, because we know what he did in Seattle, it's almost like the universe is kind of correcting itself. It felt like a miss when he was walking up, but we'll save that for later.
To finish up talking about these series real quick, first let's jump into some of the results. Inter Miami winning 2-1 against Atlanta United. They're holding the advantage in that series. LA Galaxy 5-0 all over Colorado Rapids. Orlando City beating Charlotte 2-0. LAFC beating Vancouver 2-1. Cincinnati with a 1-0 win over New York City FC. Seattle Sounders beating the Houston Dynamo in penalties 5-4 to hold the advantage in that series. The New York Red Bulls going to the Crew and beating the Crew 1-0 thanks to a goal from Carballo. They hold the lead in that series. And then Minnesota winning 5-4 in the PKs against Real Salt Lake to hold the advantage in that series. Josh, any results standing out to you from those first round of games?
The Houston one was a little surprising. Just because I hate them, and I hated watching Steve Clark run around with his little Padawan braid after the game. But no, the results obviously Columbus dropping a game is huge. Outside of those two, not really.
Columbus and Real Salt Lake are the only teams to lose at home in this first round. Just want to throw that out there.
But Alex, we finished 4th in the results of home games this year.
Hey, we did. They had a pretty decent. They did have a pretty decent home record throughout the regular season, and per Trey Fitzgerald, just 2 points off the record best.
Interesting.
He must have played a lot less games back in the day when it was the Fortress.
He says it was the same amount.
Interesting. I don't know why it just really feels like we have not been good at home. I know there's only 3 losses and 3 draws that absolutely feel like losses, but I think, and I know y'all saw my tweet yesterday, it was a little over the top for me even, right? I'm just frustrated at our recent home form. And let's look at it real quick. We're just going to dive into this. Our first loss was to Colorado. They came back 2-1 from behind, right?
Really early in the season.
Inexcusable. We had the best of that game. We let off the gas in that. We lost that game. Very frustrating. 3 points down. Then the Galaxy come in and beat us 1-0. Okay, Galaxy.
To end the streak.
Yes.
To end the streak. That was a record-setting unbeaten streak for Real Salt Lake, and the Galaxy ended that one. Let's throw that out there too.
Yes. So that's a side that you go, okay, right? We are the home team, but that's a strong side. That's acceptable. Colorado wasn't acceptable to me. Then we lose to San Jose 2-0 at home. Absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Right? These are points at home that we should be picking up. But the biggest ones are the Portland draw, that comeback. That was extremely frustrating. The other goalless Minnesota game, and then obviously Columbus, right? The Columbus draw, that's great. But That's a lot of points on the table against teams that we should and have beaten.
I feel like the feeling of a poor home form comes from that 3-3 to Portland.
Yeah. Coming out of we were just coming out of a skid at that point as well.
Yep.
So overreaction, sure, but we're not getting it done at home, and clearly we didn't last night.
So yeah, let's jump into it. Let's jump into last night's game against the Vancouver. Why do I keep mixing them up, man?
I don't know, man. Vancouver and Minnesota, they're real close to each other.
The Minnesota United Loons, and we'll jump starting with the starting 11 for Real Salt Lake. In goal, Zach McMath. At right back, Emeka Eneli. In the back, Justin Glad, Javane Brown, Alex Catranis. Any thoughts, any concerns on the back line for Real Salt Lake?
I mean, like we talked about before, center back depth's scary. And it made sense that Marcelo didn't start per our conversation last episode. So not really any surprises, but an area of concern.
And I thought Javane Brown did good.
Yeah, he had some shaky moments. Kind of tailed off, at the end of the second half there, but the whole team did, in my opinion. So he was serviceable, and it was fine. We'll have Vera back, next game. I guess it's this week, but yeah, we'll be fine there. But I'm having some serious questions about right back, and we can get into that later.
In the center of the park, you have Nelson Palacio getting the start alongside Brian Ojeda because Anelli's at right back. Up top, Dominic Markzuk. In the middle, Matt Crooks, Luna on the left, and Chicho Arango starting at striker. Any thoughts, any concerns there?
It all feels fine. And you just hope Chicho got on the score sheet. He didn't, but, it all feels fine.
So, Josh and Andy, as we jump into this game and dive into this game, what is the immediate first thing that you notice from this match? I think, Josh, you might have tweeted it, but what stood out to you the most in those first 10 minutes?
Minnesota was there to absorb and counter.
Yeah. Minnesota was there to do one thing and one thing only, and that was to defend. They didn't care to get forward. They didn't care about holding the ball. They didn't want to create. They were there to head to penalties.
Absolutely. It was an ugly game. The just cheap fouls. It just was ugly all around. But Minnesota still got a lot of good chances, even though they played very ugly ball.
Yeah, I just mirror that same sentiment. It's one of those matches that you just hate to get to. Weather's cold. It's kind of sprinkling a little bit. And you would hope that as a fan, you're going to see some proper football being played. But yeah, they just hunkered in, and it just made it difficult, man. It was a hard, tough game to watch. And usually when it's a tough game to watch, we know that means it's also going to be boring. And quite honestly, it was a snooze fest. Aside from a few moments, it was just really hard to get into this game. But hats off to Minnesota, right? They came in with a plan and they executed, and they got the result that they wanted.
Got to talk about that tackle from behind from Jefferson Diaz in the 7th minute.
That's a red.
Absolutely taking out Chicho Arango early in this one. For a second there, real concern that Chicho might not have gone up from that one, but obviously good to see him bounce back, good to see him get up, but still a crunching challenge by Diaz.
Yeah, absolutely red for me. That was studs right into his calf.
From behind, no less?
Yeah. If that was an RSL player, instant red.
Definitely seemed like it was one of those tackles that was meant for more. I think Diaz very lucky to escape this one without seeing a second yellow as well.
Yeah.
Later on, having a couple challenges again on Chicho, but Jefferson Diaz gets the yellow, and that's the only card he sees in this one.
Yeah, this referee was a bit odd.
Yeah.
He was very particular about where he threw the ball in, right? He was very kind of eccentric. It was an interesting referee performance.
Did a lot to control the game. That's for sure. I feel like he did a lot to step in there and kind of control the game and make sure things stayed under wraps and I think that was not I think that was necessarily too because of what happened between these two sides last time. You have the mass confrontation at the very, very end of the game. Brian Vera spits on Boxall. So I'm pretty sure the league or pro or whoever got in the referee's ear and said, hey, just make sure that you have control in this one.
Yeah, he was very vocal, having a lot of conversations with players. It wasn't a bad performance by the referee, but it was definitely different.
No. A couple minutes later, Diego Luna with the clearest and probably best opportunity of that first half forces Dane Sinclair to the near post. And Claire makes a tremendous save. Absolutely phenomenal save on Diego Luna. Keeps this one at 0-0. Diego Luna, though, again, early knocking and looking good.
Absolutely. And again, brightest star on the team yesterday. So good stuff from him. That goal goes in, this game's entirely different.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly because 1-0, right? But you're going to force Minnesota out of that shell earlier. Just a damn good save from St. Clair.
And it was something Jay Nolly was saying too on the broadcast, right? That goal goes in, you force Minnesota to do something different because you're trailing. You don't have the luxury of sitting back, bunkering down, having 8-9 players behind the ball at all times. You can't do that once you're trailing. You have to start getting forward a little bit. That creates more space for Real Salt Lake in turn because they're trying to get forward and tie this game up.
Yeah, it gives you an actual soccer game instead of a park the bus game.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful little heel flick. Would have been all over the social media, the reels for sure. I know Isaac was shooting down there, and as a videographer, photographer, also just a very boring match to cover. But that does give me a little glimpse, little shimmer of hope for what is to come on the next match. But yeah, man, absolutely. Just Diego seems to just be involved with almost everything that you see on the field that is alluding up to a goal, right? So would have loved to see it for him. Dunny was joking on the broadcast that it's no longer Luna boy, it's Luna man, right? Because you kind of see him stepping into those roles where he's just becoming more of a mature player, contributing goals, obviously. And so was worried when we saw the calf injury or the cramp. Doesn't sound like it's serious at all, but I really do think we've got a shot, man. I think we need to get out to Minnesota and, like I said, just review tape, go in with a different mentality, go get the win on the road, and then just bring it back.
I have a hot take, and I think it kind of is stemming into one of our offensive issues. Do you guys feel, and again, this is the hot take and a question, do you guys feel that we are trying too hard to get Chicho a goal?
At times, yes. At times, yes. I think there's moments where you see a guy like Mark Chuk, a guy like Crooks, a guy like Luna, who has maybe an opportunity to pass it out wide, create something where you have a little bit more room, or just find a better pass. But I think there's been a couple of times, not maybe not in this game specifically, but I have seen there was a couple instances against Vancouver where it feels like the guys are trying to force it a little bit too much to Chicho, and in turn the defenses are clamping down on Chicho and basically able to clear the ball pretty well.
Yeah. It felt like there were 3 guys marking Chicho the entire match, and there was I remember specifically there was a chance just a little outside of the box where it fell to Anelli's feet, I think off of a deflection, and it was lined up, and maybe it could have just been the angle on television, but if you were to just hit that first time and attempt the shot, you never know what's going to happen. But I remember seeing the hesitancy from Anelli, wishing that he would have taken the shot. Instead, he just kind of pulled it out and then just tried to lay it off to somebody. I don't think it's much of an issue like it used to be back in the days, because I know that we had a lot of frustration around people not just taking goals, but I feel like for the majority of our roster, they've got a leg on them. They've got a boot on them. And we're not seeing, like, it's not as bad as it used to be, but I did realize that, Josh, and I'm glad that you pointed out, because when I had seen that from Anelli, and again, I said, I'm watching from TV, so, you know, the angles can be different. You don't truly understand where the defenders are in front of you. Maybe it's not a clear shot. It could just end up in the stands, but I feel like I do see that hesitancy and just trying to create more of a little build-up play rather than just take those shots and just see what happens, which I would like to see more of.
There was a lack of shots from distance this game as well.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Andy, I think the one that you're talking about where Anelli brings it down and lays it off, he lays it off to Chicho, who tries it from distance, and Chicho doesn't hit it cleanly. Just straight into the hands of Sinclair, and danger averted.
I mean, dude, we've been shocked, man. We've been shocked at, who's the players who have put it into the back of the net that, aren't midfielders or forwards. And so I think anything is fair play, man. When you have that many people just hunkering down and playing defense like Minnesota did, just give me something dirty. Like, I don't care if it's a beautiful goal. I don't care if there's a lot of link up play. If it's that tight, just take a shot. Maybe you catch a deflection. Maybe you catch somebody's hand. You open up a PK. So I'd like to see Real Salt Lake just, if I think the danger here is Minnesota hasn't figured out they go home and do the exact same thing. But I would just hope that the guys have more courage and more chances. And I think that with a pressure where, for Real Salt Lake, unfortunately, it's Minnesota wins and they go home and the season's over, which sucks. I'm hoping that that's going to bring out the urgency in these guys to just be shameless and take those opportunities and just hit the shit out of the ball. I know that's a very fans in the stands take, but I feel like we got to just get grimy. I feel like we're just trying to be too clean. Maybe we were too confident. Maybe we took it for granted that we were going to just mop the floor with these guys at home. But in circumstances like these, especially being on the road, granted, yes, we're a better team on the road. I want to see everyone just at least making an attempt, and like you said, Alex, just not laying it to Chicho and having everything, like all the pressure, literally fall at his feet.
So we head to the break at 0-0. Is there any concern for you guys heading into the break all tied up?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not good enough, and we're going to leave it late, and it may not go our way. That's my fear.
Yeah, the same. It's you would hope that the guys would go back into the locker room and regroup, but it just turned into another 45 minutes of the same play.
I'd even go as far as to say that Minnesota looked better in the second 45.
Yes.
We looked a bit of shambles at times.
I would agree with you, Josh, there. This Minnesota side looked a lot better in that second half, and I hate to pin it on one guy, but in the 55th minute...
I'll do it.
In the 55th minute, a substitution is made that I truly believe changed the complexity of this entire match.
Oh, it took all the life and gas out of this match.
Yep.
And became a liability. Instantly.
Andrew Brody subs in for Nelson Palacio in the 55th. Anelli moves back into the midfield, which I thought... Let's talk about the positive first. I thought that in the midfield, it was really good to have Anelli back in there because I felt like there was more chances for Real Salt Lake to try to break through and get forward. However, in turn, that created more chances for Vancouver coming the other way.
Vancouver, huh?
God, Minnesota.
Liability.
Yes.
And with Brody, I feel like this has been a conversation for a while. You have good Brody and bad Brody. Sometimes he gives you a great performance and you're happy with it. Most of the time recently, it's been a poor performance. This was a poor performance. And yeah, the Brody experiment needs to be over. I'm sorry. And this kind of circles back to my comment about being worried about right back depth at the moment because it's not looking good, man.
Yeah.
He also looked extremely slow. I'm sorry to cut you off, Andy, but he looked terribly slow.
Yeah. My biggest the biggest concern is for the future, right? Like we're just trying to get past Minnesota. And if we can't figure a way past Minnesota, or if we somehow manage to win the 2 out of 3, I mean, what I'm thinking about is I'm not even looking at conference finals, which would be scary. But do you really think that the roster that we have now, or the way that we're playing right now, and I guess like rosters, just not the appropriate word, but
I'd say the way we're playing.
you guys know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way that we're playing is, I just don't see it, dude. And I'm very optimistic, and hopefully something will change. But that's when I'm watching this match and I'm thinking of the future. Okay, are we going to lift a conference title, which we don't really care about? Fine, we get into MLS final. I'm concerned. I'm very, very concerned.
In our current form, I don't see how we make it to MLS Cup final. I don't see how we make it out of this round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the biggest hang up for me. Watching this match, there's, the only moment of brilliance came from what? A big mistake from Minnesota not being ready. And Diego, also, dude, Diego being played a beautiful ball ahead of everybody, still can't tuck it away. I'm sorry. Diego's a great player, but you need to tuck that shit away. End of story, period, bottom line. It's just crazy to me, but that's where my major concern is okay, fine. We get past Minnesota. Cool, we're in this, but for how long? And I just don't. From what I saw last night, there's not a championship in the future. I just don't see it, dude.
Our offense just isn't on enough. They're not on. We're not finishing. We don't look that dangerous. And our defense is in shambles, right? They played well, but the defense is in shambles, and it's just not a good combo. You got to have one of those things working for you.
So do we address what we're seeing on Twitter and social media with the big Andres Gomez gripes? Was that the brilliance that we needed? Was that the finishing touch? Was that the spark that we need? Late minute sub, come in, make a big difference. I feel like we're missing something big, dude.
I'll counter you, Andy. I don't think we would be really any better off right now with Andres Gomez. The big thing we're missing is Chicho scoring. That's the big thing.
Why do we think Chicho isn't being Chicho when it matters most?
He hasn't been Chicho since July.
I don't know what it was about that suspension, but it just killed him. It killed all and every momentum that he had, and kind of everything that happened in that 3-week span, right? With Chicho getting suspended, with Gomez going out the door. Chicho just has not been the same guy since before that.
A moment of silence for Chicho. That's what we're doing right now.
This is what this is. This is what this is,
Yeah.
because it's super unfortunate. This is a guy who was one goal away from breaking the club record single season scoring that Sabrio's held forever. Right? This is a guy who is in MVP conversations. This is a guy who is leading the Golden Boot, even without playing a game in 4 weeks.
Rest in peace.
At what point does the accountability come into play and we start holding Chicho to that standard again?
I mean, I think we are.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to give him time, but when's time? And this isn't me saying let's get rid of him, but when's time that Julio just starts every game until Chicho gets back his form, right? Like, I know he needs to be out there to score, but he's not doing it. And I'm not loving the attitude he's showing about it either. So
he is clearly frustrated that he's not getting,
frustrated.
That he's not.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him, but it's not helping.
No.
Yeah, it's a little too late to figure it out, man. Honestly, it's a little too late to figure it out.
It's just going to take one. It's going to take one. I don't know that the penalty counted. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little nervous about him taking one, right? Because the worst thing possible is going through my head, and Chicho misses somehow. What does that do to Chicho? But he bags that goal. Maybe that's all he needed.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
He's going through the drought, dude. He needed to feel the ball go to the net, man. Maybe that's what it was. It's a dry spell.
It's been a real long dry spell.
And it's not going to be the prettiest. It's not going to happen in the way that you want it to, but
Even if it bounced off the back of his head and went in, I'll take it.
Gotcha.
Jumping back into the Minnesota game.
Not the Vancouver game?
Not the Vancouver game that happened
Okay.
2 weeks ago, or a week ago, whenever that was.
Ah.
Andy mentioned it. Diego Luna had a really, really good opportunity. Good for Real Salt Lake. Nice heads up play. Quick free kick. Played in behind the defense. Caught Minnesota napping. Did not catch Dane Sinclair napping because Sinclair came up, made a good save on Luna. However, you've got to score those.
If you have a chance like that,
handed to you on a silver platter.
Yep, we would flame anyone else that missed that. So yeah, I know soccer's hard, right? But that's your job. That's your setup. That's what you're hoping for. Finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, they have the upper hand in every literal sense, right? Shut down every opportunity. Got a big save against Diego.
Twice,
right? And so you got to think Diego's going to bed. I know he's a pro, but what that does mentally to you to have a highlight worthy social media reel viral flick being blocked in the way that it was blocked, right? Like it wasn't off a defender or off the post. It was St. Clair. And then to have a second one where it's a literal 1v1, something that you're bagging and training every single day like clockwork. Goals that a sixth grader could put away during recess, right? You got to think what that does mentally to Diego. And I hope that he's got the mental fortitude to get over that. And I hope St. Clair isn't in his head.
I mean, that kind of goes for the entire team, right? That ball doesn't go in. That's your best clear-cut opportunity in how long. That's got to be so deflating.
Yeah. Yeah. All it would have taken is a 1-0, right? Again,
completely changes the game.
Either goal. All it would have taken is a 1-0. We'd be in a much better mood. The socials would be different with the fans. The optimism, sure, we'd be a little bit worried if it was just 1-0 and now we got to go clean up the job away, but it's really going to take some self-reflection on everyone's performance, and I think it's going to put a lot of self-reflection on Pablo on the approach on this away match, and that's a seat that I don't want. That's a gig that I don't think anybody wants. To be in a position where you're playing away at the brink of elimination after coming off this excellent season and nothing went in for you at home, nothing went right. I feel for Pablo because that's going to be a tough match. And guys, like if you think about it, the weight, like just think about it. We did the podcast the entire season, not me because I'm, took a break or whatever. But can you imagine just the feeling of being eliminated by Minnesota of all teams?
By being upset.
Yeah. It's like, can you imagine just how shitty that would be? After the hot start that we had, the optimism, the incredible times at the stadium, the incredible results that we had when we had them, the fire in Chicho, like Alex said, Golden Boot race. I think at some point he was either like on par with Messi or up there with Suarez, like up there with like world-class names, just to fizzle out against Minnesota of all teams. It's not even Houston. We're used to Houston. We could take a Houston loss. We've done it plenty of times in matches that mattered, right? Like we would accept Houston, but Minnesota?
This is a matchup that on paper you should be winning. Absolutely.
And he's gone.
It's true. The way the XG, the statistics, everything points on paper at a Real Salt Lake win, and we just haven't seen it. Real Salt Lake has still yet to beat Minnesota this season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unfortunate, man. I think it would be just a waste of a season. It'd just be disastrous.
Yeah, honestly. It's like what was the third place finish for?
Yeah, what was all those trips to the stadium for? What was all that coverage for? What was all that hard-earned money spent on for? It's a spot that I don't think any of us would have envisioned. Like if we would have sat down and done predictions, and if we would have just sat down and thought, okay, hey, like what team could knock us out? I don't even think Minnesota would be in the conversation.
Definitely.
It's like the equivalent of I don't know, man. It's like the equivalent of like walking down the street. Out of all of the things that could happen to you, you could get hit by a car, you could get shot. I don't know. This is like a satellite falling out of the sky. The probability is boom, smashing you. Like it's that crazy. It's that freaking crazy. And listen, I'm back, dude, with a vengeance, and I'm just gonna go off for a minute right now.
Andy, Minnesota isn't that bad, buddy.
But I'm just saying, dude. I'm just saying.
Okay, I'm just making sure you know that I know that you know.
But I'm just heated.
Minnesota isn't that bad.
All I'm saying, okay, fine. They're not that bad, whatever.
Here I was thinking I was going to be the salty one, and Andy comes in and just
no, but I'm just saying, like,
off.
For the way that the season started and the way that we were producing and the way that Real Salt Lake was in the conversation, like, give me an LAFC, give me an LA Galaxy, give me one of the teams that actually matter in this league. For me, it's not Minnesota. I'm sorry.
It's not all doom and gloom yet. You still got a game on the road. You can go out to Minnesota, forge game 3, bring it back home in front of the fans.
Alex, with the way that we played, you really think
it's not over? It's not over. Really it's not over until the 90th minute hits on Saturday at Minnesota.
Josh, you've been a lifelong fan since Rice Eccles, dude. Your name is imprinted on that seat that you sat in Rice Eccles when you watched this team for the first time. You, out of anybody, would know, dude. Tell me, does Real Salt Lake do it and force a game 3? Or is the season done? You tell us, because you're going to know.
I think we'll get the job done.
Wow. Okay. All right.
And I think it comes a lot to defensively, Real Salt Lake did not really play that bad, except maybe Andrew Brody. I thought defensively, Justin Glad played well. I thought Javain Brown did a job. Katranis looked good. And we have to talk about the man of the match, Zach McMath.
Oh, buddy. This game, we could have been down 5-0, bro.
Yeah. Had it not been for Zach, there's no chance he win.
But I don't like that. Your man of the match is the goalkeeper? Come on.
It's not usually a good sign.
It's not a good sign.
No.
It's not a good sign. I don't even think that's worth bragging.
Saves. He made 4 saves and a penalty save to keep Real Salt Lake in this one.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely the man of the match. The problem is he was getting tested a little too much. You know what I mean? But we will have Vera back. Hopefully cooler heads prevail. Nothing happens with him coming back, with Boxall. But yeah, there's still a chance. We're not dead.
Okay. We're not dead yet. But
we've been shot.
It's a common saying. Yes.
Yeah.
We've been wounded, not critically.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
But we are bleeding.
We're bleeding and we've got a tourniquet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should probably get to a hospital.
Probably. Make sure it's in network.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into, real quick, the penalty shootout. Kelvin Yeboah for Minnesota steps up first, scores. Chicho Dongo steps up for RSL. I wasn't worried. Josh, you were a little bit worried. Andy?
Okay, wait, hang on. Was that the Kevin Yeboah? That was like the slow rolling.
Yeah, that was ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, dude. That was crazy.
That run up was, he was at the ball for 45 seconds.
Yeah, and I know McMath, I think, wanted a second look, but he was kind of off his line anyway. But, I mean, nice PK by Boa to just go. I mean, I know he stood there for a long time, but the little stutter step, did he stop? Yeah, it's a little questionable, but the refs didn't see anything bad in it. but that was just like such a weak PK. And I think that if that's the first one and it goes in that easily and McMath just misjudges it, I don't know, man. That's where it's tough, man. And the whole time I'm just scratching my head because I'm thinking, okay, did Raimondo not share his secrets with the RSL goalkeepers, right? Because Raimondo's a really good read on PKs, and he's like one of the best penalty blockers in Major League Soccer, perhaps in the sport. I know that's like a big claim, but the whole time I'm just thinking, like, did Raimondo not share his secrets, bro? Like, are you not talking to these goalkeepers and giving them tips? Like, what is it? Is it a wrist flick? Is it the walk up? Is it the lead foot? Like, what is it?
To be fair, with that roller in, it was the stutter step that it's borderline illegal to do, right? Depending on the referee, that sent Zach the wrong way initially.
But there was a question,
which is why Zach was pissed off, right?
Yeah, but there was a question. There was a question on the broadcast if it should have been retaken, but it wasn't. But yeah, still okay. All right, move on.
Yeah, that stutter step from Yeboah. Any read that any goalkeeper has on that stutter step always throws you off. Chicho steps up. Andy, did you say you felt confident?
Yeah, I feel confident in Chicho as a PK taker. I know there's questions about the order of the penalty takers, right? Like we're going to get to Glad in just a moment, but I don't see anything wrong with Chicho. I mean, sure, he's on a dry spell. Sure, the suspension might have messed with him. Whatever the reason is, he's still top talent in the league. So PK is just it's like the equivalent of a Subway sandwich maker, right? Like you can just say you want a number 7 and bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Like it's in. So I did not have any doubts with Chicho at all.
Well, Trapp steps up for Minnesota, makes it 2-1. Up steps Diogo Gonçalves, makes it 2-2. Same question for Diogo. Any concerns there with him stepping up at number 2?
Nah.
I was a little nervous. It's just someone that I haven't seen or understand much of the history on, right? Like I know he's wearing like the 10. And you never know, right? Like you never know. So it's something that I think for me, I'll clearly is a big name in this club, but no, I like Josh's confidence, and that's what I've got to rely on is I got to take Josh's word for it. But in the moment, it always just, dude, you never know, right? Like it's, you've seen guys just fly it over the bar before like that, even with their big names. So I was a little concerned, but I was very at ease when he scored.
Now, so this probably should have been the decisive round for Real Salt Lake. Michael Boxall steps up, and Zach McMath makes a huge save to give the advantage, the minimal advantage to Real Salt Lake. Up step Justin Glad. You reminisce about 2021, and Justin Glad skies it to give the advantage back to Minnesota, just like that. Tied at 2-2, but it's advantage Minnesota.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
Poor guy, man. That's just the universe evening it out. Like Justin Glad missing this PK probably fixed the pathway of a meteor that was like headed for Earth. Like just, put it out of it, just course corrected it out of an impact. Just super unlucky. And you don't like to see that happen to somebody with that much tenure. And it's going to affect him. He's going to be thinking about it. So I really hope that he's just able to brush it off. And he's not going to hear this message or whatever, but if he were to step up again, I would have full confidence. And I know he's going to tuck it away if it were to be another scenario with PKs.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, right? Center backs, they're not supposed to be PK takers. You're gonna get a gaff, right? That coming out of a center back is less surprising than say a Chicho. Unfortunate, yes, but I'm not hating Justin Glad for it by any means.
Do you think it's questionable that he's going third?
No, I don't think it really. Well, yeah, there was a lot of more attacking minded talent left to go. So Yeah, kind of weird,
Yeah, it's a
but
little
fine.
weird, right?
If you're confident and want to take the kick, though,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, that's a real tough one, dude. Because it's like you can't even before the crowd's even settled on celebrating the block that just happened. It's boom. It's right back to where we were.
Yeah.
So I would hope that Justin clears his head, brushes it off, and just shows up ready to party in Minnesota. But I would argue, hell, give it back to him. Let him redeem himself if we do get in that situation, which I really hope we don't get into again. But I would have no problem with him being in the first five.
I just hope he bags a regular time goal,
Yeah.
in regulation, kind
Nice
of
little header or
reset.
something.
Yeah.
So Justin Glad misses advantage Minnesota as Jung Sung Bin steps up, makes it 2-3. Anderson Julio ties it up at 3-3. Oli Wessi makes it 4-3. Emeka makes it 4-4. Jefferson Diaz makes it 5-4. It's sudden death.
Pause. Anelli? Were you guys worried for Anelli a little? That was a little pressure.
No, not at all.
No.
You weren't? Yeah,
Nope.
he's a stand-up guy, huh? Okay,
Yeah.
you got that confidence in him. That's where I was worried. I was like, okay, younger dude, like we know he's proven, we know he's a badass, but still for me, that's one where I was like, oh boy, here we go. I'm glad he tucked it away, but if you were to ask me like where my doubts were really coming from in that moment, it was Anelli, but I'm glad that he was able to just tuck it away, dude. Like a true professional. Man.
That's what he is, man.
Yes. Okay.
That's what he is. No concern here for Anelli going in that spot, especially with kind of the weight on the world on your shoulders at this point, right? If you miss, it's over. So Emeka doing a good job stepping up, having a clear head, putting it in, keeping RSL in this one. Fantastic for him. Jefferson Diaz comes back, gives the 5-4 advantage to Minnesota, and then back again to sudden death. Brian Ojeda stepping up. Any concerns first for Brian Ojeda?
Not really.
I was so blacked out. I don't even remember who took the missing PK at the end. I'm like, I didn't even realize it was Ojeda. All right. Sorry, Josh.
No, yeah, I'm just saying not really. Ojeda, professional veteran, thought he had it in the bag, and honestly, it was a pretty decent look. But one I wish he just kind of went for power, not placement, and just drilled it to the back of the net, right? Keep it low, lower mid. Anytime you go super high, it's such a risk. It's very high risk, but very high reward. But, what happened, and let's not dwell on that one too much longer either.
Yeah, you just hate to see that, man. You hate to see that for anybody, really. Just to hit the crossbar like that, unlucky.
It's funny, though. Think of how we're reacting to Ojeda missing compared to Musovski last year.
Well, that I feel like this comes to Brian Ojeda has been so instrumental and such a key piece to Real Salt Lake and the success that this team has had, not just this year, but the course of the last couple of years. Since Ojeda has come in, he has been such a pivotal part to that midfield.
Yep. He's earned that grace.
And he's dialed in. Yeah, he gets the grace, man. If you remember where Musovski was, he was nowhere to be found, dude. He was trying to negotiate his contract, was being a complete word that I will not say on here. So yeah, Musovski earned every bit of criticism and whatever threats came his way for what he did to Real Salt Lake. That was completely justified. I'm not talking about physical threats. I'm just saying like mean tweets, but completely justified. He's a POS. So glad he's gone. And Ojeda, no, bro, you missed it. It's okay. We don't hate you. We know you work hard. We know you love this club, and we stand with you.
There you go.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them is a key player to this team, and one of them left in the best moment last year. So,
dude, that was like the icing on the cake, dude. Negotiating more money, and then he missed it, and it was like, cool, bye, goodbye, see you, right? So, well, yeah, you guys know who I'm talking about. But no, I don't hold any ill will. Just an unlucky game, unlucky result. Hopefully, we just figure it out, and hopefully, if it does go to PKs, which I don't want it to go to, hopefully the guys are dialed in and they'll learn from their mistakes.
You guys want to go over to Twitter and hear some of these hot takes and reactions from some of the guys?
Yeah.
Let's get these hot takes and wrap this bad boy up.
There we
Let's
go.
watch those Utah hockey clubs play.
Let's start with Uzbaldo says, not sure how Crooks gets so much playing time.
Because he's good.
He is.
We talked about Chicho getting collapsed on whatnot. He's the only one that can give Chicho space at the moment. He's doing a very good job at pulling defenders off. I'm actually really impressed with Crooks. I like what he does. I feel like the fan base is divided, pretty 50-50 on him, but I'm on the pro Matt Crooks side, and I think he's integral to the squad, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah. It's more than scoring goals, man. It's if you could be a good decoy to pull people off, that's also very important. So agree with your take, Josh. Osvaldo, no.
Look, Matt Crooks, I think, does a really good job in the intangibles, does a good job dumbing and creating for Chicho. I feel like Crooks is going to be one of those guys. Do you remember back in, was it 18 when Dami joined? And people were on the fence about Demir.
Yep.
It was pretty 50-50 on where people liked him, didn't like him. I think that's where Matt Crooks is going to end up. Maybe, I don't know if it'll be like the same production or the same, goal scoring amounts or whatever, but I do think Crooks is going to come around and he's going to become a fan favorite because he just does so much off and on the ball to create for this attack that not a lot of people see unless they're really watching him for 90 minutes.
Yep. And, he bags a couple more goals and suddenly a lot of people, he's in their good graces. So
Zark says, disappointed but not surprised. As soon as Luna got subbed out and the other sub for Brody, I knew we were playing for penalties. And again, chances created with no finishes, not confident going into game 2. My MVP was McMath.
Yeah, and let's be clear on Luna, right? Not subbed for tactical reasons. Some cramping, trying to prevent some injury so he's good to go the next few games. So before we overreact on Luna, that there's a good reason he came off the field. Otherwise, I don't think he's coming off the field until way later in that match, if at all.
Cool. Yeah, something to look out for the next game.
Definitely a guy you want to have at 100.
Yeah.
Especially if Rouse Lake can advance to the next round. I'm okay with taking that precaution of pulling him out. However, he was visibly upset because that's a guy who wants to be at the spot all the time.
Yep. 100%.
Give us some goals, Luna.
Travis Anderson says we've had success on the road as home teams don't typically sit back and counter. We seem to play much better when there is more open space and struggle to break down a pack defense. Gomez really helped us out with that. Chicho's off-the-ball movement is not what it used to be. This is why Pablo says if we score 1, we will score 3 because the game will open up to suit our style of play. Kind of hit that earlier.
Yeah, and with the Gomez bit, Gomez being out there with Minnesota sitting back so deep, that's counter Gomez, right? That takes his ability away. And that's where you need to service guys like Crooks and Chicho in the box for headers, take shots from distance, create chaos in the 18. So yeah, I do agree, but at the same time, I really don't think Gomez is that effective against the Minnesota side that's sitting back as deep as they were.
Yeah. We're just going to have to hit them fast, hit them hard, and let's pray we score in the first 15.
Well, and listen, Marchuk, honestly, I feel like we didn't really lose a lot out of Gomez, right? Gomez was scoring when he left, but Marchuk has the speed, he has the technical ability, he's creating chances. I'm totally comfortable with him moving forward.
A lot of positives, a lot of good things from Dominic Markzuk. We've talked about it in the past, Josh. I want to bring up a tweet that I saw yesterday from Caleb Turner, who said Dominic Markzuk is basically where Andres Gomez was a year ago for Real Salt Lake.
Right.
The talent and the ability and the vision, it's all there. However, it's just going to take time. But even more so, I feel like Markzuk is already a little bit further in the development to where Gomez was at the end of last season.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Let's just hope it clicks, man, because I'm
It will.
so sick of the get him next year talk.
Chris Farin says, my opinion is Chicho became satisfied with his contribution this season in July, so he took his time in coming back and then took his foot off the gas. He was the biggest reason for our amazing start and the biggest reason for our decline.
I think that's a little harsh on Chicho.
Yeah.
If it were that case, we'd be seeing a lot of like Yura-esque things on the field, a lot of Ortuño-esque things on the field. Chicho's still putting the effort in. Yeah. He's just not getting the payoff.
It's not for lack of effort. Yes, right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hold him accountable, right, for the suspension and the actions that led up to that, whatever you had said. Clearly, I don't think he's someone that doesn't want to be on the biggest stage, being a contributor, but maybe that's a lesson for him. I don't feel like he's done. And I know he's got a lot to prove, but that did hurt us substantially.
Yeah, but like I said, it's only going to take one goal for him to find his old self. We just don't know when that's going to be.
And that's echoed by Pablo. That's echoed by Luna. That's echoed by basically any player on the team that you talk to. And if you heard their media availability leading up to this game, they all mentioned that it just takes one. Once Chicho gets the one, those floodgates will open. Because they've seen it in training. He's busting his tail off in training. It's not for lack of effort. He just needs that one. And I hope it's coming on Saturday.
Me too. Because I've been hoping it's coming for weeks now.
Everybody pray.
MLS Collectors says Diogo is not it. Need another creative player to create some offense for us. Luna can't do it all and definitely should not have been subbed when he was yesterday.
Injury.
Yeah, well, it's to his defense. I don't think it was clear.
Yeah, people don't know this. Yeah,
they didn't know, so still think it's a pretty decent take. Yeah. Luna cannot do it himself, so it's going to take the collective effort to try and just create. And like we touched on with the Anelli layoff to Chicho, dude, if you've got an opportunity, just smack it. And see what might happen, what might come from it. You could probably draw a penalty. Who knows? So I'd like to see more scrappiness.
I would also like to see more of Diogo, though. He's at times very invisible on the field. And with a team like this, that's tough.
He was particularly invisible in this last one.
And that's not an attribute that you want out of your 10. You want your 10 involved. You want to see the replay cameras. You want to see more shots, right? So you're a 10 for a reason, bro. Live up to it.
And I get it. He's still figuring it out. He is a new signing, came in the summer, still figuring it out. But without Diogo, all the creativity falls on Diego Luna, and teams realize that. So you got teams starting to double team Luna, and then so others are forced to create for Chicho, and then that's when you get the ball forcing into Chicho. So it all just kind of spirals into this whatever we saw against Minnesota last night.
I don't like that. I don't like figuring it out.
This is not the time to figure it out. This is the time to have it already figured out.
No, you're getting paid great money. Figure it the hell out.
R.A. Grizz, not a hot take, just sad from what we could have been this season.
Oh. Let's just give them all a collective aw.
Aww.
Yeah, we're sad too, bro, but we're angry too. And I think if we're feeling this, imagine how Real Salt Lake's feeling, because they're the ones with all the pressure. They're the ones with all the hopes and the aspirations. And if we're this frustrated, I could only imagine what the locker room is feeling.
You'd hope.
I don't see them just fizzling out and being okay.
No, they're definitely taking it personally.
Yeah, they have to, man.
Based on their body language coming off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
JJ Category Pirate says, 1, subbing out Luna and Chicho in critical games like the end of season and playoffs is the worst decision Pablo could ever make. 2, Catranis is the glue to this team, And 3, Crooks needs to permanently sit high and stay there to distribute.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
I don't want to get after number 1 because we've covered it.
Yeah, we've covered that, but agreed. Okay, cool. Great. Thanks for tweeting.
Draper Ute, energy and attendance in the stadium was completely lackluster for a playoff game. Mark Zook and Goncalves have offered very little. Other teams play direct. RSL plays tiddlywinks in their half. Yikes.
Yeah, this has just been a problem. It's been an ongoing problem. Attendance, especially kind of like midweek. Now it's getting later. Sun's going down sooner. I think it's always been tough for the fan base to get out there and try to show up. I also think
get off work early.
I also think the format itself, best out of 3, like there's really no incentive to make that first match, to be honest. So yeah, if people have an opportunity to go do something else, they're clearly going to do that instead if they're not sitting in traffic after work. So the attendance, I think that's more so on the league. Could it be a reflection of like the marketing behind it and what the team is doing to try and get people in those seats? Maybe, but yeah, I think for a lot of people, like I just said, best out of 3, cool. I'll grab match 2 or match 3. I'll just watch this one comfortably at home and not in the cold, mucky weather.
I mean, to be fair, right? It was after work. There were still 19,000 people there.
Yeah, I think
they were just pretty late. But what the one thing I do agree on is the energy was lackluster.
It feels like a regular season match a little bit.
The energy felt lower than a regular season match. And part of that probably comes from the lack of exciting play on the field, right? If the game is kind of a doldrum, it's hard to be shouting and hooting the whole time because what are you hooting for, right? So, the energy was low. I'll agree with that. As far as the tiddlywinks in the back, I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't know if that means, you're playing the ball back to your center back's goalkeeper at times. Yes, it can be frustrating, but you got to remember they're looking for space. They're looking for breakthroughs. They're trying to turn the ball over. So it's very tactical, but it can get old, especially when opportunities are missed, right? Guys make a run, they don't see it, stuff like that. But, it can't be too direct all the time. And I don't think Marchuk's a disappointment. I will disagree on that one.
And when Minnesota has 10 guys behind the ball at all times, kind of makes it a little difficult to find open passes forward.
Yeah, there's not a lot of space to play the ball in, which is why that tactic works, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you need big crosses into the middle, shots from distance, just try to cause some chaos. So it's just an ugly game, period.
And before we move on from this one, Rouse Lake is not the only one who had quote-unquote attendance issues. A lot of these Monday, Sunday games were not the best in attendance because Sundays you're competing with NFL. And then Monday, again, weekday, kids have school. People got work.
Yeah.
Weekday games are hard.
It's been across the league. It wasn't just RSL.
Well, and historically, any weekday game, really, unless a big team's coming to town, it's not going to be the craziest sold-out event.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have people being able to tailgate before the game. Like, it's an entirely different environment for all those reasons. You're scrambling there to get there from work, whatever. It's just a different experience. I don't love it. I hate weekday games, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, hopefully Apple takes note of that and they'll make adjustments.
They won't.
And the last one we will hit on is from El Dusty. Selling Gomez at the peak of our success in the season was the wrong move. Could have been sold at the end of the season and probably for more if he continued upward during the season.
Maybe, but what if he didn't?
There you go.
What if he lost all of his value? What if the team that wanted him is no longer interested and now we have a disgruntled player that wants out, but we can't find anywhere to move him and we don't make our money back?
Jeez, bro.
There's a lot of what ifs there, right? I agree that it did suck to lose him in the middle of the season, but that can't be an excuse. And to be completely honest, I don't think it can be a reason to be upset at the team. Soccer's a business. If someone wants to get us some money on profit, because that's what our goal has been this entire time, is right to be able to flip players. If we're not a club that's willing to sell, you're not going to attract players that want to move here with the hope to move to Europe, right? So it's unfortunate, but had to be done in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I could see the argument in that. Trying to retain somebody, but yeah, I agree with Josh. Business, you see it all the time with bigger European teams, leagues. But it's like that sentiment that we said earlier about figuring it out. You know, that's what Andres Gomez was. He had it figured out, and he would have been a key piece. I think, had the sale not been an opportunity, yeah, we'd be in a different shape. But I agree with Josh on this one. You don't want to stifle or be the reason that somebody can't go and pursue better play, and also at the same time make your club a pretty penny. So it is what it is.
And let's not forget the little bit of short-term memory I feel like some of us have, myself included. There were times at the beginning of the last season we were questioning Andres Gomez.
Oh, yeah.
He just came in really hot, really fast, and we capitalized on that lightning rod. He wasn't lights out all season. He was far from it at times. So let's not have short-term memory when it comes to that either.
Yeah, agreed.
Josh, I think we talked about it a little bit ago. That what if question is never going to go away.
No, there's always going to be players. What if we signed Piatek back in the day, right? Like,
yeah.
What if we signed Luis Diaz to the Monarchs for $50K when we had the opportunity?
Yeah.
There's so many what ifs that we can't dwell on them.
Exactly. It happened. I'm glad he got his first goal in France. I'm glad he's starting to get more minutes and he's starting to find some success over there across in the Ligue 1. But we can't dwell on the what if Andres Gomez had stayed. This is the team we have now. Let's put our faith into Dominic Marczuk. Let's put our faith into Diogo Gonçalves. And let's put our faith into this team who is on the brink of elimination to get the dub on Saturday and bring this back to America First Field next week.
Yeah, I know Trey's going to have a lucky spot out there in that stadium, and Trey will do that. He's got lucky spots, and if he stands there, we usually pull a good result. So it's all on Trey's shoulders now.
Any predictions for Saturday before we wrap this one up, guys?
It could be close. Something in like a 3-2 situation.
Oh,
goals will be scored.
I hope so.
Says Josh.
This series this year between the two teams has been so lackluster and non-offensive that something's got to break.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's Chicho's scoring drought and he goes off for a hattie.
Yeah. I'd like to see RSL pull a 2-0 and then just kind of like an early 2-0 and then just kind of pull what Minnesota did to us here.
Nah, we're not good enough to do that defensively.
Well, I'd like to see a little bit of payback. I just want some payback.
Let's go for a big win then.
I want payback with a comfortable lead.
Okay. Yeah, RSL in a parking the bus situation is my literal worst nightmare right now.
We've seen it, right? We've seen it in like the late stoppage times, and it's always scary.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I predict game 2 will be decided from the penalty spot again.
Oh boy.
Scary.
There we go. That's my prediction.
Put that on us. I mean, it's a fairly sound prediction. Let's be honest.
It's going to the PKs, and that's how we're going to find out who wins this series.
Blah.
All right. That'll do it. That's going to be the end of the RSL show for today. Andy, Josh, any last things you want to add or throw out there before we wrap this one up?
No, guys, just keep up the social media follows, refer your friends to the RSL show. Also, if you guys haven't checked out Making of a Moment, RSL History just dropped on KSL Podcasts, a very in-depth review of the club's history, all of the drama with Deloy Hansen. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Go check it out. They're dropping new episodes every single week. And that's it. Just follow us on RSL show. Go to KSL Sports, watch all the highlights. And if you guys see us around the stadium, say what's up.
And that'll conclude today's episode of the RSL Show on the KSL Sports Network. Thank you guys, as always, for listening, for tuning in. Let us know what you thought about Andy returning. Do you want him to stay? Do you want him to come back? Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and let us know what do you think about Andy coming back. Andy, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, see you guys. Bye.
Guys, I'll fire him so fast.